right, so I'm glad to see you all are using technology because all of my notes are right here on my phone. So yay, I'm in the right place already. So a few things to know about the time I'm going to be spending with you this morning. I'm really excited to be doing this on Father's Day. I'm a daddy's girl. My father is supposed to be here, so I'm hoping he's on his way, but if not, he'll see the tape. So there are other people here. My speech is going to be about the seeds of peace, because you know that's a brilliant idea. Oh, the seeds of peace. So I felt like I was a real genius in deciding that should be the message for this morning. But there are other people here who have planted seeds in me, so I just want to take a minute to recognize them. So my mother is here. You got to raise your hand whether you like it or not. There's my mommy. And there's my father's mommy. So there's my grandmommy. And that's one of my father's sisters right there. And then these are some seeds I planted.
That's your own church?
Yes, that's the whole church, right, yeah. And so I believe in bringing my own crowd. That way it makes me look good. And so, although there are others who have planted seeds in me, a lot of what, because it's Father's Day, I'm going to be, making my father feel good by going, and Daddy taught me, in that way. Because he always says daddies get the short end of the stick, so I'll make sure he does it today. Also, things will go much better today if you laugh at things that I say that are funny. Even if you don't think they're funny, if I intended them to be funny, just go ahead and laugh anyway, because that'll help us better. As you listen, be open to using any part of my process. So I'm going to be connecting concepts that I'm talking about with just my own process of even how I showed up here today and things that have happened in my life. So be open as you're listening. You'll recognize pieces of your own process in there. So just be willing and open to connect my process with your own. And also, they're going to be side lessons. So I have an intention on what, I intend the message to be. And of course, there will be side messages that you'll get, that'll branch off on their own. So make sure you're open to those side lessons as well. So when I was really honored to be asked to come and do this today. Nothing happens by mistake. So the Community Mediation Center, where I first began work as a volunteer, really in peace work, is right down the street on Greenmount and 33rd. So you may have seen it. It's the Community Mediation Center right there with the big mural on the side of the building beside the bank. And I started there as a volunteer, mostly just because it was amazing to me that people could really sit down and talk about things and then resolve them peacefully. And so to be asked to do something that's like right up the street in the same community was really exciting for me. And so so I was thinking about, all right, so what should I talk about? And I realized, oh, seeds of peace. So they'll never see that one coming. And most of the time when you are asked to do things, I don't know about you, but a lot of times my process, I'm honored and excited, and then there's the pieces of me that have some doubt, and I start going, well, why me? Why would I be, the one to be asked? And so there are always lessons in everything. So especially when I feel places of doubt inside myself, I use that to find where my lesson is. So in the why me's, I realized that it really is a great idea specifically for me to be a person to talk about the seeds of peace. Just because statistically, there had to be some seeds planted in me to understand what peace looks like, because statistically I should be bitter and hopeless and not really having a lot of peace myself. As you can see, I was, born with one hand. We live in a society where people just automatically look at me and have all kinds of feelings, from pity to, wanting to help, to feelings of their own guilt and shame for some reason. I'm not even sure what that's about. But, there are a lot of ways that I'm perceived that don't always match up with my reality. And so that can feel stressful sometimes. I grew up right here in Baltimore City, in West Baltimore. And so as a little girl, it was a really good neighborhood to grow up in. Although it was low-income housing and right in the heart of the inner city, it was very community-oriented, and we were really like a family. And so as I reached maybe 12, 13 years old, things started to change in the neighborhood. You know, as our society changed and drugs came in, and what used to be just, you know, innocent winos on the corner turned into drug addicts on the corner and drug dealers on the corner. And I started at an early age really watching my friends die and going to funerals and that sort of thing. And so here I am as a grown-up, I'm doing peace work all the time. Like, I teach people how to resolve conflict, how to deal with their own conflicts, and then yet I'm still surrounded by violence in my personal life. When I was, in 2007, I was training. The Office of the Public Defender wanted to start a mediation center, like within the agency. And while I was doing that training, I found out that one of my brothers was murdered. And so it's those kinds of things that, you know, people normally, they go, well, how do you believe in something when really you look outside of you and it looks like there's no proof that peace is powerful and that peace, you know, that doing peace work really changes anything. And so there must be some seeds planted somewhere inside of me that fuels me to still be doing this work. And so it makes perfect sense that I would be called here today. So often people do ask me, well, why do I still do this work? And so there are two different types of peace work I see myself as doing. So in my regular job, I'm the mediation trainer, lady, conflict resolution guru person. And so I'm doing that work, and I'm really good at it. It just happens to be that I'm blessed that I found something that really enjoys me, and I enjoy doing it, because it requires talking and acting crazy. So, you know, I was talking before I was walking, my mother said. So, you know, like, it fits. So that's my day job, and I just happen to be good at it. And then there's my purpose work, where I'm really aware that I'm called to stand in front of people and just give what I know that the Creator has for me to say. And so I just happen to be good at that part because I'm blessed at, again, it's talking to people, so I'm going to be good at it. But so being asked to do this made me go beyond just the surface. Oh, I enjoy doing it and I'm good at it. Like, peace work is a put your whole self in kind of thing. It's not just something you can, on the surface, be doing when you're in a world where violence seems to be the prevalent thing. And so this really made me have to look at, you know, what is this, what's the reason for me to really be here? And so, some of the seeds that were already planted for just me personally were, so you have to know and understand that you have a purpose. So in this knowledge of a oneness, that you're not separated, things that are happening and your place in what's happening is very purposed. And so my father began giving me a purpose. My mother was there too. But when I was born, he named me with purpose. And so my name was not a mistake. So if I was a boy, I was going to be named after Malcolm X and after Patrice Lumumba. And I'm a girl, so I'm named after Erricka Huggins and Angela Davis. And Erricka Huggins was a Panther who did a lot of work for social justice and community stuff. So I was named with purpose that, you know, I couldn't just show up like, oh yeah, my name is just Erricka, it has some extra R's in it, you know, like, there really is a purpose behind who I was intended to be in the first place. And then very often, so just the biology of seeds, right, is that seeds start off in darkness. And so you have to plant them in a dark place. And so that for me highlighted that very often a lot of the things that are the seeds that are going to help us grow and move us through really hard times when we really need to be grounded in peace, a lot of those things happen at times that you think are really dark places in your life. And so even in my growing up, when the neighborhood started changing and things started, you know, not feeling so innocent and so community, and people who used to have sleepovers together now were arguing over corners and territory and money and things that just, you know, didn't seem to make sense. What was going on in my house in those times that felt very dark is, for instance, I saw, as it was pulling my brothers out into it, I saw my father acting in certain ways that were about his belief in peace. So not just, oh, we should be peaceful and we should be about social justice, but when it's my time to show up, do I show up anyway? And what is it that I'm doing when I show up? So specifically, in hard times, when one of my brothers got into an argument with somebody and there were boys looking for him all over the school and running around, they rented a U-Haul truck and jumped out with guns and ran all around. Somehow, and to this day, I still don't know how he did it. My father found out who the boy was, where he lived, and went to talk to his parents to talk about my son and your son are having a conflict, and we as adults need to talk and, jack both of them up to, really work this thing out and clarify. So I saw him doing things that were, really, we talk about it and it looks nice when you see things like that play out on drama TV, but to really see that kind of thing happening, it puts something in you where you see what it looks like and you know what showing up really looks like. When my brothers were deciding and being just pulled by the influence of all of the things that were going on, I was the only girl in the house and I was the oldest, but I saw him sit down with everybody and say, I'm not losing my sons to the streets. And he verbally looked them in their eyes and told them that. And he gave them options about how he loved them, what he was willing to do to support them and help them make better choices, although they were influenced by all of these other choices out in the street. And so it appeared that in that dark place that it had nothing to do with me. I was a girl. I didn't care about going out in the street and selling drugs. I was in school and, quote unquote, doing what I was supposed to do. But that seed was planted in me because I'm watching what it looks like and I'm able to see, oh, okay, so this is not just like a thing we say, this is a thing we have to do. And when it's hard for us, we have to show up and do it anyway. And so, in thinking about what I needed to say today, my father always taught me that you need to know what you're talking about. So if somebody asks you something, if you don't know, just be like, I don't know, and go find out, and then, and so don't say anything if you don't know what you're talking about. But the funny thing about that is if you asked him a question, Daddy, what does this mean? Or, how does that work? He would tell you to go look it up for yourself. So it wasn't like, so I would have to, so we had, we were like the Huxtables of the ghetto. We had a whole thing of encyclopedias from A to Z, and we had a big gigantic dictionary, we had pocket dictionaries, so there was never any reason, if you wanted to know something, he was not going to stop to, and to tell you, you had to experience it and learn it yourself. So he said, you go look it up and then come back and tell me what it means. Come back and tell me how that thing works. And so, I said, oh, well, good thing this is 2012, I can Google how do seeds grow? And so there were two things I did. I Googled how seeds grow, and then I was also led, and this seems really weird, but I was also led to really just look up the definition of seed, the word seed, like what a seed actually is. So some interesting facts about how seeds grow. Seeds need both water and light in order to grow strong. And so that connects with, you can't just plant the seed, but it needs to be nurtured. Just like so all my life I was taught, we have a responsibility in society, and no matter what you see other people doing, you should choose love, and you should do what you think God is telling you to do. But they couldn't just tell me, I had to have examples to nurture that seed, just like I saw my father doing. So you need both water and sunlight in order for that to happen. Seeds also, when flowers grow, they don't just grow up out of the ground. So what we see is it growing up out of the ground, but something that I think is even more important than that is that they're growing down at the same time. And so they have to be rooted and grounded in order to grow up tall and strong. And so that's deep for a whole lot of reasons, and I'm not even sure all the reasons that's deep. But the two reasons that I'm clear about is that when you have let's say if you only have roots, right? So let's say if seeds only got planted and they grew roots, that would be like a person who has a lot of knowledge. So there are some of us, we may know a lot of scripture, we may know a lot of religious rhetoric, we may read every peace book that everybody writes, and so we have a lot of knowledge, and technically, there's my daddy, and technically we know things. But if we, so that would give us roots, right? So we would have our own internal knowledge of what is going on. So we might have roots, but keep in mind that because a seed is planted, those roots grow in darkness. And so if all you had was knowledge and things that you knew, then nobody else gets to experience it. You know, like the plant needs to grow above the ground where it can be its beauty can be shared with everybody. So if all you have is things that you know and you keep them to yourself, you don't nurture them, you don't water them, you don't do what really needs to happen to make it pop up above ground, you can't share it really with anybody. And so that knowledge is really not doing anybody any good. Also, because roots, if a plant only, if it didn't have roots and it only grew above ground, then it would really look good, but it would not be grounded in anything that could hold it when the strong winds blew. So we live in Baltimore City, and there are a lot of organizations and a lot of people doing really good work, and that looks really good, but you really find out where you are on your journey when you are uncomfortable, when the winds blow, when the murder rate is still top of the charts, and Baltimore is still leading in violence, and those kinds of things. Or do you just look good above ground? Are you just saying the right things? Are you just going to the correct events and giving money to the right places? But when the winds blow, are you rooted and grounded, and do you stay with it? Do you have a belief system that holds you firm when the winds are blowing and you keep doing the work even when it looks like it's not going anywhere and the work should not be being done? And so we need both things to be happening at the same time. Some interesting facts about the definition of the word seed. So I thought this was good. Seed is not just a noun. Now, I technically knew this. I'm 40 years old this year. This is when you're supposed to go, what? You're 40? Oh my goodness. So I'll wait for y'all to be shocked in the name.
We thought you were a lot older.
Okay. See, this is why you need dads. Okay. So although I knew this, like really, I know that I was led to go really look at it and see it, but so that it could really hit me on the inside. So seed is a noun and a verb, which means, in my mind, that it is and it acts, right? And so somebody told me recently, see, this is why, so I'm an inspirational speaker and I can look good on camera, but the reason is because I keep people around me who say brilliant, wise stuff all the time. And so recently, speaking of fathers, my children's father, recently we were having a conversation and he was telling me how anybody can be a sign on the side of the road. You know, just pointing the way and telling people, hey, you should go this direction, you should go that direction. But you don't just, he said, you don't want to just be a sign on the side of the road. You want to also be the path itself. You want to be doing things that people can look at and go, oh, that's what the journey looks like. And that's why I should be going in that direction. And so a seed is that way. It's not just a noun. It's not just a thing. It's also a verb. So it is and it acts. And so the noun definition of a seed is that it's a source of development or growth. So what I want to focus on is thoughts being the noun version of a seed. That the thoughts that are planted in your mind are the source of your peace. It is about how you think that determines whether or not you believe you have peace and whether or not you feel you have peace to give and can participate in peace around you, even if things around you don't seem peaceful. It's really important to understand how powerful your thoughts are because you give what you think you have, and thoughts create your reality. So, let's just start at thoughts creating your reality. So, if thoughts are the seeds, and this is the source of your peace, and we know that seeds need to be nurtured, then what would nurture those thoughts would be the faith that you add to those thoughts. So you nurture your thoughts by which ones you really believe in. So let me give you some examples. So when I go to pay my bills every month, I can tell what I believe in by how I feel. So when I pay all of my bills and there's just like this much money left, if I start panicking, then I know that I'm giving faith to a belief in lack, the power of the little bit of money that's left. And so I'm saying what I'm not going to be able to do and what I'm not going to have, and oh my goodness, how are things going to turn out? And so that fear is a gauge that I'm realizing, okay, so the thought must have been that I don't have enough, and I'm feeding it with faith. That, right, I believe in the power of that small number that I see. And so I don't have peace. Whereas if I believe in abundance, it doesn't matter what that number says. If I believe that I'm one with the universe and it bends to give me what I need and the Creator looks out for me and every other creation, then even when I see that small number, I'm paying my bills in joy and in hope and in peace because I know that I already have everything that I need. And so it depends on what you nurture those seeds with. And so also, because we know seeds grow upward, the thoughts that you put your faith in, they show up in your life. And this is why thoughts create your reality when we compare them to seeds. Because when the seed grows upward, we get to see the flower that blooms on it and, the pretty leaves. We get to smell it. We really get to experience it. The same thing is happening with thoughts that you have. Whatever thoughts you give your faith to, that's what you draw to you, and that's what you create. That's what has power in your life. So, for instance, in our communities, if you believe in gossip, for instance, you don't just believe in participating in gossip, so you'll talk about other people, what they're doing wrong, and how they should be doing it, but you also believe in the power of how gossip impacts you, because your reality is not just based in people's perception of you, it's based in what you believe about yourself. And so, oftentimes, we don't just minimize how much peace we can have in our communities by participating in gossip kinds of things and not really having honest, direct, loving communication with one another. But even if I believe that what people say about me defines me or really impacts me, that disturbs my peace. That creates a reality where I start to believe I'm other people's perceptions. But if the thought that I am nurturing and I'm having faith in tells me that I'm not other people's perceptions, I'm whole and complete regardless of what people think about me, and if I show up in my truth, it won't matter if I'm black, if I'm late, if I'm handicapped, if I'm female. Being me and showing up in my truth will defy any oppression or anything that people want to throw my way, any shade, quote unquote, that people want to throw in my direction. It won't matter if what I am nurturing inside of me is based in a seed of truth. And that's where my peace is going to come from. So the verb of the word seed is to furnish with something that causes or stimulates growth or development. So not only do we have to have the thoughts, but now we have to furnish the thoughts with things that are going to create it to grow and going to make it develop. And so I'm going to just take things that my daddy gave me, and we're going to use these. You missed it, but because it's Father's Day, like a lot of the speech was about what daddy taught. Mommy did too. But it's Father's Day, so we're focusing on daddies. Okay. So there are two C's that I want to wrap up with for us to just take out into our day. And there are things that I've thought since I was a little girl. So there were seeds that were planted, but things have to be done to furnish and nurture them because it is and it acts. So the two seeds are God is everywhere and we are one. And so when I saw the opening thing, I was like, yeah, what I'm supposed to do. Like, when there's confirmation, you're like, yes. Okay, so, and those are really, it's right there in my thing. I didn't just make it up. Okay, so God is everywhere and we are one are the two seeds that I want us to just focus on today. So when I was little, like that was a really good feeling to realize, oh, God is everywhere, And I think like in my innocence of being a little girl, I realized it and I believed it and I felt protected all the time and no matter, what happened, I was like, it's going to be all right, God is everywhere. everywhere, you know. But I think as I got older and I perceived what I saw, darkness, then I realized I started nurturing some of those other thoughts, some of the more negative, the doubt. Maybe God has forgot to show up over there because something is not going on right over there, right? And so, and those kinds of things, the good thing about a seed, even if it is planted and you're not furnishing it with what it needs, it's still there, and anytime you're ready to come and really give it water and really give it, the light that it needs, it's gonna sprout when you need it. And so, my own personal, for instance. So I realized that God was everywhere, but the place where I finally let this really root me and ground me so that it could sprout up, where it could be my reality above ground, it was in a place of darkness, again, where the seed was planted. So it was 2004, and I was depressed and sad and falling apart, and I decided, I am done, I'm going to kill myself. I had a nice trip, it was nice, but I was in my car, and the funny thing about it is I went to the last place where I remembered having peace. Because you know that the root is okay, I need to go, wherever there's peace, those seeds of peace that were already in me led me. Go sit back in front of your elementary school, which was the last place you remember being an innocent little 10-year-old girl having all the peace you could possibly need. So I go and I sit in front of there, and to make a long story short, I'm boxing with God. And I'm going, I am on my way back. I don't know what this was, but you got some explaining to do, and I will see you when I get there, because this is just it was unfair and not right from the jump all the way up to now. So, I hope you're all ready, right? Now, because there was a seed in me that constantly echoed that God is everywhere, it means that even in the midst of all of that darkness and flailing around, I couldn't ignore the fact that I knew if God is everywhere, he's also in my hell with me right now. Also in this place that I think is so dark right now. And so because I had that awareness, I became very aware of a presence with me in the car. And I don't mean oh, I thought there was one. I mean, I could feel the warmth and I could feel the energy of a very calm presence and being in the car with me that was verbally saying to me, I'll wait. Whenever you're done, you just let me know when you finish. And, and then we'll just pick up the pieces from here. And so I definitely went through, I took all of the things that I thought were going to put me to sleep, and I went and spent 7 nice days on the psych ward. And throughout the whole experience, the reason that I actually started getting some peace in it was because I knew that God was with me, because God is everywhere. So it was okay for me to realize that in that moment in my journey, I needed to crash and burn everything that I thought had been true before, because it was not serving me. Right? So if you are rooted and grounded, but you're not really nourishing it, then the roots don't hold you. When the winds come, they just blow you all around, and that's what was happening to me. So it was time in my journey to crash and burn, but it was okay, because since God is everywhere, God is also in the ashes. So it was ready to just build me back up. So it was okay. So I spent nice time on the psych ward. I led all the crazy people in doing the electric slide. And and people would come to visit me. My family and friends would come to visit me and go, you look better than you have ever looked. What is this? Why is this? You are supposed to be having a breakdown. Why do you look so good? But it was because I had accepted, finally, that God is everywhere. It was now being really nurtured and watered with something that was really going to make it grow. And then there's the we are one, right? And so